Johnson'sAppliances.net.
Very happy Thursday night to my friends. Weather time. I hope you had a wonderful day. We had sunny skies. It felt really good out there, and I don't have any complaints, which is kind of crazy because I complain about everything. Trust me, I will find the nicest day, and then that minute little detail, I'll complain about it. But anyway, a nice weekend going forward, all right, into the holiday. We're going to keep things bright, we're going to keep things cheery, and we're going to keep things comfortable. Unfortunately, I got to talk about some stuff that isn't so bright and cheery. No immediate impact for South Jersey. Let me reiterate that. No immediate impact for us here in South Jersey or the tri-state area going up into Pennsylvania or Delaware. You're A-OK. You have nothing to worry about going into your Labor Day. But down the pipeline, 10, 11, 12 days, we could absolutely see some wind and rain. Now, if you're wanting me to give you a straightforward answer, I can't do that. Frankly, I don't know what the impact, or if there is going to be an impact from Dorian, will be here in South Jersey. I don't know what that looks like. I can't tell you any other way. If I were to tell you, oh, we're going to get 2 inches of rain and we're going to have 30-mile-an-hour winds out of the Northeast, that would just be a lie, and I don't do that. What I do is look at the information and look at where the data ultimately brings us. So what we need to do, everybody needs to get on the same page here, that looking at a forecast that's 10 days out is kind of ridiculous when we can't even determine where a storm is going to make landfall 3 days out. There's a lot of variables at play here, and we're going to talk about each and every one of them in depth. As always, I am here to answer your questions. I am here to educate you. All I have to ask you, I had some guy this morning accuse me of sensationalism because I posted one run of the GFS. That's one of the models that we look at. That showed the worst case scenario going right into Florida, then up the coast and battering South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, even us here in South Jersey. Now, that solution is not very likely, but we can't even take that off the table because of where the upper air dynamics go. But if you were to read my post, I explained the reason behind posting it. It's about educating the public, and we often walk a very fine line between perhaps hyping something up and educating people. The last thing I ever want you to do is look at a picture and share it and have no context. If you didn't read it, you just think what you're seeing right there is what's going to happen. That's the gospel, right? That's not how meteorology works. And I wish I could give you some brief explanations, but it's a complex subject that I try to bring down to a level that anybody can understand. That is my job as a weather forecaster and as a broadcaster, to make sure that you are comfortable with the information. So with all that said, please pay attention to what I have to tell you. Look, I understand everybody is busy. I understand that we sometimes live a crazy lifestyle where every minute matters. Well, when you have a potentially hazardous situation for you or family in another part of the country, I think it's worth a few minutes of your time to find out what's going on. So let's dive into everything. First, we'll focus on where we are tonight. Obviously, clear skies out there, no issues. Going into tomorrow, we still have high pressure in control. Into the weekend, we have a few clouds that'll try to build up tomorrow afternoon, but that front is generally going to just die out. It's not going to give us any kind of precipitation. Let's take a look at our infrared satellite. This is Dorian, and it looked honestly healthier yesterday, but you see the bright colors here, the reds and the oranges and the yellows. That is where we have the convection. That's where our thunderstorm activity is really popping. And this is going to form a little bit better. I think it's going to turn into like a buzzsaw type formation. You'll see an eye eventually form. And this thing, as it gets out over that open water, is really going to explode as it gets out over an environment that's more conducive for its strengthening and its development here. Got to show you how fast things have changed. If you looked at the forecast earlier this week on Monday, all right, it had the storm going right through the Dominican Republic. It ended up about 200 miles from that. So that right there tells you the level of uncertainty we have with this system. And as we go into tomorrow, we should have a better idea of ultimately where it's going to go. But right now, it is continuing on this trajectory to the northwest. Most of the Bahamas are fine. In fact, all of the Bahamas should be fine as it's going to skirt by to the north here. But if you're heading on a cruise down into the Caribbean, oh boy, that's not going to be a very good situation. Our water vapor here. You see the green, that means that there's a lot of moisture in this storm. Earlier on, it was encountering some dry air that got worked into the center of circulation, and that's why it's not looking extremely impressive today. Winds are sustained at 85 miles an hour right now, and if you look up here, there's a bit of a dry air slot thanks to high pressure. But then, as soon as it gets over that, it's going to be back into an environment that is conducive for the strengthening, as a lot of moisture is going to be around. Let's take a look at our current futurecast, or our forecast track of Dorian. As of 5 o'clock, it's an 85 mile an hour Category 1 hurricane. We expect it to really grow as we go into tomorrow and Saturday, up to 120 miles an hour on Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, 125 miles an hour. And this is going to be coming very close to Marsh Harbor right there. Sunday afternoon, a menacing Category 4 hurricane. And this is a step up, honestly, from where we were just a couple days ago, where we were anticipating maybe a Category 1 or 2 hurricane. If this pans out, this thing is going to be barreling down on the central east coast of Florida Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and then getting into Monday morning and Monday evening. We'll zoom in, and the area, at least as of right now, this can change, and I'm going to explain that in just a second. But the cone of uncertainty, we call it, for just cause, either side of that cone and anywhere in between is where the center of the storm could technically ride over. So Florida is 500 miles long. That cone is a little bit bigger than Florida. So there's a lot of wiggle room here, all right? But if this were to take the current trajectory, you're looking at Fort Pierce, Palm Bay, Cocoa Beach, Deltona, Daytona. Everybody on the north side here, that's the worst part of the hurricane generally. That's where you're going to get very strong winds, but the storm surge, that's the primary concern. Property damage, loss of life is always worse with water than wind. And these winds are going to be pumping in out of the east and northeast, filling up the bays. Storm surge, you could get 10 feet. Waves pounding 12, 15 feet. It will weaken into a Category 1 hurricane as it comes across the Orlando area, Kissimmee. But as we zoom out here, goes from a Category 4 right over Marsh Harbor, makes landfall, potentially as a Category 3 or 4 storm, and then as it hits that land, it loses its juice. It loses its latent heat and the energy needed to powerhouse this thing, right? But look at the cone here. Again, 500 miles long. That's what Florida is. The center could be here. The center could be here. That's why I'm hoping by tomorrow we start to get a better idea. So where does this cone of uncertainty even come from? Glad I asked that question, right? We have several forecast models that are geared for forecasting tropics. We have the GFS. We have several other small models that we don't really ever talk about. But every day, multiple times a day, they are ran. And you get these lines. We call it the spaghetti plot. And each line is significant because it represents one specific model. So you get this general consensus here that the closer they are packed together, the more in agreement they are. And that is good to see. But you also get these outliers. See these two guys going back out to sea. Right now they're outliers, but in future runs, we have to look for trends. That's how we forecast. So we perhaps look for more models that go that way. Most of them cluster together in central Florida here on the East Coast. You have one or two going down to the south towards Fort Lauderdale and Miami, but the cone of uncertainty has to take into consideration that you have some of these variants here, especially these two right here, and that's why that cone is expanded so far. Again, that cone means your center of circulation, the eye, could go anywhere in there. It looks like we're trying to narrow things down to right here. But tonight, tomorrow morning, that could very well change. We'll zoom in here, and you see Palm Bay, Vero Beach, Port St. Lucie, up towards Deltona, Daytona Beach, Orlando. This is where that bullseye is in terms of the current model thinking. And you only have a few outliers here. These specific models could bring it into North Carolina, South Carolina, or completely pull a Matthew back in, what was it, 2016, I believe, where it completely missed Florida altogether. That option is on the table, and we would cross our fingers for that. That would be fantastic news for everybody. Let's take a look at where these factors come into play. First, Category 1, a 2 by tomorrow, a 3 late tomorrow or early Saturday, and then a 4 right off the coast of eastern Florida by Sunday. Looks menacing, right? Let's take a look at our wind shear here. Currently, Dorian's right here. So it's going to be entering this area that is pretty stable, and it will allow it to continue to grow. And it could encounter some wind shear here, but not a whole lot to really make that much of a difference. Our wave heights, 15 feet right now, that will continue to grow as the storm grows. And it's going over this bathwater, 84, 83, 85. So there's a lot of latent heat. This is how tropical systems power themselves, through the evaporation process. There's a whole lot of moisture to work with as soon as it gets out of that area of dry air. So this is our Futurecast radar for tomorrow night. So let's go forward about 24 hours here, and you'll see how closely packed together these wind barbs are. Lots of precipitation. You see the yellow, that's indicative of very heavy rainfall. As of Saturday afternoon, it's coming north of the Bahamas, but still far enough away from Florida where you have a couple days to prepare and evacuate need be. Sunday night, here it is. This is one model's interpretation making landfall Sunday evening. Palm Bay, Vero Beach, Port St. Lucie. This is our in-house model. There are several models that we look at, so don't go running away with one of them. We like to get a consensus. As soon as they start to hone in on one idea, then we'll start to go with that idea. Our forecast winds, not too impressive right now. They're sustained around the eye wall at about 85 miles an hour, but that is going to pick up. And I think this model is a little bit underdone as it comes through this area. 82 around the eye wall, and this isn't a very high resolution model. We'll have that data by tomorrow because there's a certain window that we have to enter to get that info for you. But Sunday night, as the things just off the coast of Palm Bay, Vero Beach, and Port St. Lucie, 87 mile an hour winds, gusting to 110, 120, but I think it could even be stronger than that. With the momentum of the storm moving to the northwest, with the winds coming out of the east and northeast, you just exacerbate the situation with the high storm surge. Then on top of that, you got the rain. That's something we didn't really talk about yet. Look at all this wet weather here. As we push on into Sunday afternoon, I wanted to go back to that. All right. Sometimes I go too fast for the computer itself. I want to show you how much rain is possible with this system. So this is as of Sunday night, and then as we go into Monday, look at that, over 8 inches just offshore. There could be areas, now this jackpot, this bullseye, if you will, could shift north or it could shift south, but right now this is what we're thinking. You could get up to a foot of rain in some areas, and that's on top of the storm surge, completely unrelated to the water that's going to be coming in off of the ocean and filling the bays. So we do have an area of dry weather, or dry air, thanks to high pressure just nosing up here. But otherwise, we have a lot of moisture here and a lot of moisture just east of the Bahamas. Dorian is going to encounter that. So the factors around Dorian, I talked about this at the beginning of the broadcast. There's a few. We got high pressure here. This is our Bermuda high. And that's steering the storm out to the west. You have the storm itself. You have another area high pressure out over Texas, out over the Gulf of Mexico. That is going to prevent it from going too far in that direction. So you have this little bit of a window right here where it can go right into Florida or potentially right up into the Carolinas. So there's that window of opportunity right there that we have to watch. So this is where we are today. We have high pressure here, we have high pressure behind me, and then we have this upper level low pressure system spiraling about over Cuba. This is also helping steer it towards Florida. By tomorrow, high pressure nudges a little bit farther to the southwest. You get that steering current to potentially start to shift it to the west-northwest. There's that upper level low still pulling on the system. Any one of these things can change the projection or the projected path of this thing, all right? If high pressure is a little bit weaker or farther to the east, you open up the potential for it to come a little farther north into the Carolinas or Georgia. If it's stronger, if this upper level low is farther south, well, guess what? The storm's going to come down a little bit farther south. Traditionally, the stronger a storm is, the more of a chance it has to pull a right turn or come to the north and then to the northeast. But if you have a strong area of high pressure over top, it's going to be very difficult for it to do so. So that is why we're focused on central Florida right now. By Saturday, here's the storm, a few hundred miles off the coast of central Florida. High pressure, drifts a little bit, and then you get it steered right into that area. For us, big question, are we going to get impacted by it? Eventually, in some form, yeah. The answer is yes. We will see some rain. We will see some wind, at the very least. If that area of high pressure remains put, if that area of high pressure out to our west stays put, you have this narrow window here for it to either come right up through the Carolinas into Virginia and on into our region, then out to sea, or you have this trough, this dip in the jet stream over the Great Lakes, ducking down far enough south where it actually tugs it. So either scenario, one of them, if it gets tugged up, we could see a tropical storm up here. But it's dangerous to speculate. I don't like to do that. I like to look at all the facts, and we'll get to this down the road. First, we got to figure out where the heck this thing is making landfall. And I can't stress enough, if you have friends, if you have family along the east coast of Florida, make sure they are prepared. This could be a potentially life hazardous situation. And I'm not here to hype things up, folks. I'm here to be a realist. Based on the data coming in right now, it looks like a major hurricane landfall in central Florida. Extremely heavy rain, crazy amounts of storm surge. Get your loved ones out of those coastal communities, all right? It would behoove everybody. If that changes, great. If it doesn't make landfall in Florida, wonderful. If it goes out to sea, even better. But everybody from New York City down to Miami should at least see what's going on and understand and be ready to react if necessary. Please stay tuned. I'll update you on my Facebook page. You can follow me. It's Nor'easter Nick, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. My job is to serve you. My job is to keep you updated. I will answer any questions that you have. Tonight, 57, clear, starry skies, feeling great. As we go into tomorrow, we wrap up your work week on a bright and pleasant note, middle 80s. Saturday's also looking good, about 83, sun and clouds a mix, a very nice day overall. Sunday, we'll probably see a few more clouds. Monday, maybe a passing shower. I like where we go towards the end of next week as the 70s come back. Have yourselves a wonderful night.